Okay. Well, I am Betty Andrews, and I live in New York. I'm 63 years old, and I'm a retired rural letter carrier. And before Relive, I suffered with chronic pain and fatigue and depression. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia and Lyme disease and essential tremor 24 years ago. I took medications, but I got frustrated with the side effects, so I began to look at supplements and other ways to improve my health. I had gone through an extensive chronic pain program, a fibro and fatigue center, and I tried many naturopathic doctors as well. And I spent a lot of money, and I never had lasting results. When Relive came along in 2010, my husband thought it was just one more thing to spend money on, and it wouldn't make a difference. I listened to stories for about a year, and I committed to giving Relive a try, mainly because before I committed to giving Relive a try, and the main reason was because of my soy allergy. But when I did start, I was very consistent, and what I found was in the first month I had more energy, and the depression lifted, and that was huge because I felt like I was in this black hole, and so that was wonderful. And in 4 months, the tremors were less, and over time, I've had results with chronic pain, fatigue, and also cervical dystonia. And at the time I started, my husband was suffering with palpitations and chest pain, and he went for his physical, and his EKG was abnormal. And he went through the whole battery of tests and ended up with no diagnosis and a prescription for a beta blocker. And he chose at that time, that was about 3 months after I started, to try Relive. And again, that was in September, and by January, he was no longer having symptoms. He was very consistent because I prepared his shakes in containers each day so that all he had to do was add water. And in January, he decided to go from 3 shakes to 2 shakes, and his symptoms slowly started to come back. But I think it was in that spring that the Luna Rich X came out. And after he added that, he was able to go back to the 2 shakes, and he hasn't had any symptoms since. Been over 4 years, and we love how we feel taking these products, and neither of us take any medications. And Relive has been a wonderful business to work from home, and we love to share and give others the same hope. And I'm proud to say that last year I had the experience of going to Haiti with the Relive Cologres Foundation, and that really opened our eyes to how great this company is. So we'll always be taking and sharing Relive.
Oh, that's great, Betty. Yeah, that's the humanitarian program, and we're honored tonight. We're going to have a special guest tonight sharing some of the Cologres Foundation with us here later on tonight. So, Betty, thank you. Appreciate you joining. Oh, one more thing. So you mentioned that you were allergic to soy, and soy is indeed one of the ingredients in a number of the products, and yet you were able to take Relive. So how did that work?
Well, I didn't have any symptoms, and I was so sure that I was going to, but I think because of the way Relive processes it, it made all the difference in the world, and I had no problem at all.
That's great. Betty, thank you. Appreciate you coming on and sharing part of your story with us tonight.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much. Well, next we head over to Colorado, and tonight Ben Eberly is with us. And Ben, we'd love you to share some of what's happened for you and Martha.
I'd be happy to. I'm a retired pastor. I'm 83 years old. But 8.5 years ago, I was diagnosed with a very aggressive prostate cancer. They prescribed a very aggressive treatment plan of radiation for me, which I scheduled. But I knew that I did not want to do the radiation, so I was looking for an alternative. And that's when we were introduced to Relive. I flooded my body with the products for 12 weeks. Returned to my urologist, and he said, according to your blood work, your cancer is in remission.
Wow.
He canceled the radiation treatments that had never been started. I've had no chemo, I've had no surgery, I've had no radiation. After 3 years on the products, I had all of my tests repeated, including biopsies, and they all came back negative. I am a diabetic of over 35 years. Before Relive, I was on 3 different medications to control my blood sugars. Today, I am on much less medication, and my blood sugars are more stable. I have 4 stents in my heart, and I had blockage where they could not put stents. The doctors were treating that medically, and after being on Reliv for 6 months, my cardiologist discontinued the heart medication, saying I don't need it anymore. And that's been well over 8 years ago. I have degenerative disc disease in my lower back. I used to take 800 milligrams of ibuprofen 3 times a day for a total of 24. And after I got on the Reliv, I no longer need that medication. And after 6 months, and the pain in my back is almost completely gone. And I'm pain free most of the time, unless I aggravate it by doing something I know that I shouldn't. And for those reasons and others, I'll be using Reliv for the rest of my life. As long as the Lord gives me breath, I'll be sharing the good news of Reliv.
That's wonderful, Ben. Thank you so much. I know Martha also had some results.
Yes, she did. And she thought she was a pretty healthy girl. But she also was a diagnosed diabetic. And after she was on the Reliv products, she was able to get rid of all of her oral medication that she was taking. But she was taking one shot of insulin, and she still does that because her body is not producing the insulin that her body needs. But the best result was her eyes. In 2007, she really didn't pass her driver's test, but after reading the charts 4 times, they finally passed her. But she had a condition in her eyes. And one eye was much worse than the other one, and it had to do with her retina. And she, after she got started taking the Reliv products, about 6 months, she went back to see her ophthalmologist, and he said, "Your vision has improved. You read one more line down further than you used to." And her vision had gone from 20/200 to 20/40 in 6 months' time. And for those reasons and others, she will be taking Reliv for the rest of her life also. She's 78 years old.
Ben, that's wonderful. Thank you for coming on and sharing. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, now we're heading over to Michigan. And Celeste Stoneburner, we would love you to share some of what's happened for your family.
Oh, I'd love to share. I think it's a privilege to share what Reliv has done for me and my family. My name is Celeste Stoneburner. I live in Portage, Michigan, halfway between Chicago and Detroit. I was looking for answers just like everybody else on this call when I was introduced to Reliv. And I was without hope. I had been under the care of doctors who also diagnosed me with fibromyalgia. I had so many digestive issues and food allergies, and my children also shared these same food allergies, which included wheat and dairy, corn, rice, and even soy as well. And so I was apprehensive when I heard about Reliv because of my soy allergy, but after the doctor took a look at it, he said, no harm in just giving it a try. And I started very gradually. But even with less amounts on my start, I went from chronic fatigue to a little more energy, and that was very encouraging to me. And my goal was to get off medications and to be able to start healing naturally. So within 3 months, I was able to get off my meds of antidepressants and hormones. I was on hormone replacement because I went from pregnancy to menopause after the birth of my youngest child, and that was because I had fibromyalgia when I was pregnant for her. It just totally whacked me out. And so to be able to get off that was amazing, too. So, not only did I have more energy and started to function, my body kicked in and started doing what it was supposed to do, I noticed other results with my digestion, which really needed to heal from overuse of antibiotics. I had so many bad bugs and yeast and things like that I couldn't get rid of with the medication. That I was actually able to start taking eat some of the foods that I was allergic to again, and not have those allergic reactions. My immune system was getting built up again. And it finally occurred to me when I was getting these results that my children, who had a lot of allergies and the asthma and the allergy shots, that perhaps if they took it as well, we could see a difference. And one of my daughters, who happened to, when I had fibromyalgia, I had been pregnant for her, had a compromised immune system, and had ended up, because of the complications with her birth and all those things, would be considered Asperger's, and she couldn't read and couldn't write, could not communicate, was underweight. The doctor was telling me she had ADHD, but I knew better. It was just the fact that she was in bad shape with the immune system. And she was one of my major concerns. And I thought, well, if she gets some results, this would really be a blessing besides myself. So we got all the kids on. In fact, we joined the business and came in at the top profit level and got the best savings on the product. And my daughter, Deborah, was at second, third grade reading level and went from second, third to fifth, seventh in just 6 months. That, to me, was amazing. She was able to actually leave the clinic and not have to have the reading therapy anymore, and started improving in her speech. Her immune system improved to where she did not need the allergy shots anymore, and stopped having the asthmatic reactions as severely as she used to have. She didn't need breathing treatments anymore. I am so very grateful for just that alone. But my son, with his allergies with ragweed, had terrible time breathing during that season, and couldn't go around without a box of Kleenex. And he was actually able to stop all these allergy meds during ragweed season. He had the best, allergy season he ever had just by starting the Relive in less than a year. So I could go on and on, all the results our family has. It has been an answer to prayer for us. And I will never stop taking these products. I will never stop sharing them either. When we joined the company, my husband had just lost his job, and we needed to have an extra form of income as I had been homeschooling our kids. And within the first 3 months, we made a couple $1,000s and just followed along and didn't even really know what we're doing. We came in the top 10 a couple times, and walked away with a trip to the Caribbean once, and then had a $5,000 bonus too. I'm so very grateful for what Relive has done. And when my mom was at the end of life, I could just spend more time with her but still get a check. And so really very grateful to the people who shared with us about Relive. And we will always extend that same, hope that we were given to people that we come across that need to hear the answers that we needed to have as well. So thank you for letting me share, and thank you, Relive, for being there for us.
Amen. And thank you. I mean, we only touched the tip of the iceberg. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen for you. You're almost a poster child here. There's so many other issues. One of the other things that I remember in your past was some kind of poisoning. Was it lead poisoning or mercury poisoning?
I had sensitivity to a lot. Well, there was mercury and also aluminum, and just plain simple chemicals like chlorine. And I could not drink tap water without ending up, with a migraine headache. And I had to have all my fillings removed and had to have chelation a couple times. And found that if I ate the wrong thing in a restaurant, I would end up sick. And so what Relive did for those sensitivities is I actually, because of the fiber product, our fiber store, I was able to have an ongoing cleansing and not have to go back and have those treatments again. And I could be, again, not have to worry about what I ate. And I still don't want to put bad water, I really don't, because I don't like the taste of it. But, if I have something, I can have a glass of water at a restaurant now, if that's all there is to drink, and I don't get a headache, and I don't get an upset stomach, and I don't feel tired for over a week. That to me, something that you normally wouldn't react to, something that you can't even have a plain old glass of water in a restaurant, to be able to do that now and not have to worry about what's going to happen to me and be sick because of it. Yeah, that's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, that one, definitely. And as I recall, one of the kids had an issue with cats.
Oh, yes, same daughter, Deborah. When she was just a child, before we ever heard about Relive, we just would go into a building or a house where someone had a cat, and her eyes would swell shut. Her breathing was so labored and difficult, she'd go right into bronchitis. And I was so afraid now for her to be exposed to cats that usually we stayed home. We didn't go to people's homes anymore. And never, did we dare go out, go to another place for a meal because of all the allergies that she had to foods like corn and again, that the respiratory effect that she had. There were many nights that she could hardly breathe, and I was afraid she wasn't going to breathe for the night. And that really, as a mother, it's very stressful, and she could tell, and she was sick most of her life. And so when we first started the Relive, I didn't realize that we went somewhere where there was a cat. She had no reaction. I didn't even realize they had a cat in the house until after they told us. So she was usually, definitely you could tell. And she could, she started a pet sitting business and could be around cats and dogs.
Wow.
And, of course, they want to always snuggle and sleep with her. And she can breathe. She has, a way to, I guess we could say, life-changing, too, because now she has a way she can be with the animals that she loves and not have to worry about compromising her breath of life. So
Wonderful.
We're very excited. Well,
Celeste, thank you.
You're
Appreciate you so much. Thanks for sharing.
You're welcome.
Okay. Well, I have the privilege of introducing you to a good friend of mine. And Patty and I have come to know and to love Taylor Benson. And Taylor has had some good results with the product, but he's someone whose heart reached out to the Cologris Foundation and to nourishing some of the kids in Relive. And it's a real pleasure for us to have Taylor on to share a little bit of his story.
Well, thank you, Bill. I appreciate it. Can you hear me okay?
I can, Taylor.
Well, thank you. Well, I was introduced to the product, the Relive products, back in 1999, so that's about 16 years now. I certainly didn't know to go looking for it, but I'm just grateful that it came to me. Very healthy at the time, but what I was dealing with in my life was a lot of problems, a lot of stress, and to the point of chronic exhaustion. I was really, really wiped out, and I just didn't have any energy anymore. I couldn't sleep at night. It's like I was in a fog. You try to get through all that, but it just was a downhill ride. It was getting worse. But when I was introduced to Relive, again, it came to me, and I started using these products. I didn't really know what they were, but I was using them faithfully. And it was really within about a week that I noticed that the fog that I was in was lifting, and then I could think again, and the clarity was coming back to my mind, and the energy was coming back, and I could sleep again. So that was the beginning of that journey, and it's really been a blessing to me, because what it really means to me now over these last 16 years, I'm a young 71 now, and I am very, very blessed to represent the Cologris Foundation in Peru as International Coordinator for Peru. But what the product means for me as I do that and live my life is wellness and prevention of diseases and the other issues that are coming along that I have not had to deal with in these last 16 years. So that's really been the big part of that. Well, Bill, I am very grateful and blessed to have represented the Cologris Foundation in Peru since 2008, actually.
Taylor, why don't you tell some of these people or don't know what the Cologris Foundation is, why don't you just tell them a little bit about what that is?
I will. Well, the Relive Cologris Foundation is the foundational arm of the company, Relive International. It was founded in 1988, and it's a testament to Dr. Cologris himself, who was the developer of our first product, Classic. And that product was, the foundation was named after him. And the Cologris Foundation at present is providing nutritional supplementation for around 42,000 children daily in about 10 countries around the world. In Haiti, for example, for the last...
Mare Hill. I live just outside of Chicago. And I've been with Relive almost 13 years. Prior to that time, I had been working with nutritionists for about 5 years, because I was tired and bloated all the time. Those were my two main complaints, the fatigue mostly. I was diagnosed right off the bat with digestive issues, leaky gut, candida, food allergies, although, nothing happened to me when I ate those foods that they told me I was allergic to, so I continued to eat them. And I was put on 150 supplements a day 50 at each meal. I was told not to eat gluten, sugar, dairy, pork, chicken, peanuts, caffeine, or alcohol. And I did that really faithfully for 3 years. And again, all I wanted was energy, and I never got it, so I stopped. And it was about this time, 13 years ago. A few weeks later, I was introduced to Relive, and I really didn't think powders in a can were going to help me. I figured my diet was as good as it was ever going to get, and this was my life. But I was motivated for my youngest. He was 5 years old at the time, and he suffered from chronic ear infections. In fact, he had already had the ear tube surgery 3 times, and he was still getting ear infections. And one of the stories that was shared with me that day was, my friend's nephew avoiding ear tube surgery. And so I knew nutrition was the answer for him anyway, and I decided that we'd all get on the products. I have 3 boys and my husband. And we did, and in the first week, I got the energy that had eluded me for the past 5 years, and that's really was all I wanted. But 2 months in, I have scoliosis, so I've always had lower back issues. I would never really say it was painful until after I ran my first marathon. And after that, I ended up with a shooting pain down my left leg, and my chiropractor said there's nothing he could do. I was shaped this way, kind of learned to live with that pain. And 2 months on Relive, that pain went away. I ran another marathon. It wasn't an issue again. It's now been, like I said, 13 years, and my youngest is now 18. And in the past 13 years, he's only had 2 ear infections. I mean, it completely changed his life, He's now a D1 lacrosse player in college. He's a 2-time All-American. I just like saying that, so thanks for indulging me. But you know what? I think it's because he takes a massive amounts of product, and that's what allows him to work out as hard as he does and stay healthy. So the products have been amazing for all of us. And, when I was introduced to Relive, I really wasn't looking for a business. I already owned my own company. I'd spent 17 years building it. I made plenty of money. But I also worked a lot of hours to earn that money. And when I was introduced, I sat there thinking of at least 10 people that needed to know about this product, and I couldn't not tell them. And I ended up jumping in the business that same day. I'd never tasted the product. Remember, I didn't think it was going to help me anyway. I just knew these people needed to know about it. What they did with that information, completely up to them, but I had to say something. And I went home and called those 10 people. Everybody said, get me some. And I started earning $1,000 a month pretty quick. And then it jumped to $2,000, and it kept going up from there. And, back in my business, I really saw this as a way to help people, which is truly what my passion is. And after a really particularly grueling summer where a key person that I had had in my organization for 15 years moved to Michigan, and I knew she was moving. I mean, she gave me 9 months' notice, so that was no surprise, but I was back to taking care of a lot of things that she took care of, and those were 60, 70, 80-hour weeks, and I would leave before my boys got up. I would be home after they went to bed, and by August that summer, I came home early for me, 5:30, and I walked in. My 3 boys were playing. They didn't even look up. They just said, "Oh, hi, Dad," and that's when my heart broke, and I said, this is not what I signed up for. I really believed that owning my own company, I would have the freedom to call the shots, and in fact, my company owned me. So I made the decision to close it so I could be home with my boys, do Relive, and over the years, Relive has paid me hundreds of thousands of dollars. My largest single month has been over $7,000, but Relive has sent me on several trips around the world, so I'm grateful for everything, and truly my biggest blessing is that my relationship with my boys is solid because I was there all those years when they wanted to talk. And anybody who has teenagers knows that sometimes they want to strike up a conversation at midnight. And I think had I had a conventional job, I don't know how open I would have been to talking into the wee hours of the morning if I had to get up at 6 and go to work. So I'm grateful for Relive.
There you go. Wonderful. Yeah, and I mean, how did the leaky gut and the candida turn out?
I actually did get retested. My symptoms went away right away. Like, I got the energy. The bloating got worse before it got better. I will say that on FiberStore. After I got my results with my back, that I never expected that nutrition would help my back issues go away. I became more open, and everybody said you need to add the Fiber Store product, which I did, and it made the bloating worse. It did. Good 6 or 8 weeks. So I was grateful for the follow-up that I had and the support team that I had to call and say, seriously, like, why do I want to do this? And they just kept saying, hang in there, hang in there. And, you know, I knew I didn't want to go back to swallowing all those pills. And so after that, that was the final symptom to go away. And about 2 years after I started taking Relive, I did get retested. It's not a pleasant test for candida and leaky gut, but I did it just for my own edification, and there was no sign of it in my system. So
great. I don't know how you took 150 supplements a day. I mean,
yeah, it was more than one fit in one hand.
I used to gag on a few. That's one of the reasons I love Relive is
Yep.
I didn't have to swallow pills.
Yep.
Oh, that's great. Well, Mare, you've certainly had good results, but you've built a business of helping people. That's what grabbed your heart, your attention, and so that's what you've done. So someone who says, you know, I'd like to help people, or maybe there's some people who really would like to earn an extra income while helping other people, while making a difference in other people's lives. So how do people go about starting and doing this Relive business?
You know, I think it just has to be that you talk. It really, because I told as many people as fast as I could, and what I learned early on is people percolate at all different rates. Some people got it right away. Some people took, a few weeks, few months. And there was my brother after 13 years who still won't do it, although his wife and his kids do it. So you never know, and I never prejudged. I mean, the woman who met me, we met in a half marathon. We didn't know each other. We were all grungy that day. She had no idea that I owned my own company. I think that if she knew the scale of the company I owned, she might have been intimidated. And so I'm glad we were all on an even playing field that day. So I never prejudged. And like I said, morally, once I knew that this existed, I had to just tell people. And so that's all there is to it, is talking and then using the support that's available, because that's the other thing. In the beginning, I didn't really understand that. I mean, I grew my company all by myself. So, and I got it up to $15 million in gross annual sales. So this was not it was a nice size operation. And I was so used to doing things on my own that I didn't really understand the support in the beginning. But once I realized if I really wanted to build this, I didn't have the time. Remember, I did Relive around my company for the first several years, so I needed that support.
Several years you still had.
Yeah. So I never would have told you.
You had very little time.
I never would have told you that I would have closed my company to do Relive or anything, because I loved my company, but I really wanted to. Once I believed that when I started my company, I knew someday I'd have kids, and I really truly believed that would allow me to have a flexible schedule and be home when I wanted to be home with them. So.
Okay. And you heard the stories of Relive. That's what gripped your heart, and that's what gave you hope, and that's what gives other people hope.
Absolutely. And I would come home every night, especially if I had a bad day at work, and I would just listen to a call, kind of like what you're doing tonight. I knew there's lots of them available, and I loved hearing people feeling better. And it would just give me more fuel, and it would just give me more stuff to talk about, and just say, oh my gosh, you have to hear this story that I heard last night, and what happened to this person. And that's all I did, is just repeat what I heard, and then use the support that was available to me.
That's it.
That's it.
Really, it's a matter of falling in love with Relive.
Mm-hmm.
And we fall in love with Relive by hearing the stories of Relive. These testimonies grab your heart. They have grabbed mine over and over. We've had many, many calls. I mean, we've been doing this call for 8 years. So there's thousands and thousands of testimonies. I can't tell you how many of them stirred me. I was gripped by so many of the testimonies. People's lives have been changed in such a powerful way through this thing, and so this is a business of the heart.
Absolutely. And it goes generations, because my boys, I think, are I'm sure, different people today because I was home with them.
Right. Well, Mayor, thank you so much. Appreciate you coming on and sharing with us tonight. Thanks.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, well, we're going to wrap things up there. I'm going to go ahead. I'll stop the recording. Again, this was number 257. There's this call and the other 250 weeks of testimonies in the archives are all available through the playback. And I'm going to go ahead and stop now. I'll come back.